All right, I have no idea what a Shodan programmer is, but I'm willing. I'm willing to read this, and I swear to gosh, if this is stupid, I'm gonna just ban you, David. I don't even know how to ban you, but I think I gotta be a little bit more liberal with the bans because people keep linking like 16-hour videos, be like, oh, why can't we not do that? And it's just like, man, I gotta get you out of here. What is with this? Michael O. Church. What do we got here? What's a Shodan of programming? Nice. Okay. It's not too long. What a beauty. It is a beauty. Do you like that? Do you like that beautifulness right there? All right, here we go. I'm going to turn it off for web archive. Ooh, that's not very good. That's like really bright. Man, either we got like turd pee or we got bright white. Like there's not a lot of options here. There's not a lot of options, and I don't really want turd pee and white. Or I don't want turd pee and black or just white on white, bright to the eyeball. All right, the belt color of meritocracy, this Shodan programmer. I've never heard of this. Nothing under the sun is greater than education. By educating one person and sending him into the society of his generation, we make a contribution extending 100 generations to come. Founder of judo. Interesting. I feel like it's a little lacking. I feel like there's things that are better than education, like family. I would consider family an easy win over education. All right, colored belts in martial arts are widely modern tradition. Having begun in the late 19th century, it started informally with the practice in which the teacher sensei would wear a black sash in contrast against the white uniform's gi in order to identify himself. This was later formalized by Dr. Kano. Ooh, Kano. By the way, Kano, nobody likes Kano, okay? Not you, Dr. Kano, but I'm just saying Kano in Mortal Kombat, the new movie, okay? I feel like I could almost do a Kano impersonation, but all he says is fuck, right? You bet me, you fuck. I'm Kano. I'm leader of the Black Dragons. I feel like that was actually pretty good. I feel like that was pretty good. See, the problem with these lightning rods is they don't make them like they used to. It all throws things off. Anyways, Kano, with the series of ranks, I turned into a southerner somehow with that one, by replacing the black sash in addition to the white belt holding the gi together with the black belt. Beginners were assigned descending, I don't know how to say that phrase, Kyu ranks, traditionally 6th to 1st, with advancing ranks were Dan, 1st to 10th. At the Dan rank, you earn the right to wear a black belt that would identify you anywhere in the world as a qualified teacher of the art. Oh, interesting. Okay. Contrary to popular opinion, a black belt doesn't mean that you fully mastered the sport. Shodan is taken roughly to mean a beginning master. Oh, I like this. Okay, I'm liking this. It means that after years of work and training, you've arrived. There's still a lot left to work. Yeah, it means that you've effectively arrived at the beginning of mastery. Let's go. Over time, intermediate belt colors white and black were introduced. Brown belts began to signify nearness to black belt level mastery, and green belts signified strong progress. Over time, in an upper division, white belt began to be recognized with yellow belt, while upper division green belts were recognized with blue or purple. While it's far from standard, there seems to be a general understanding of belt colors approximately as follows. White beginner, that's crazy. I don't know what is going on with my coloring, but somehow white is blue. White as beginner, yellow as beginner upper division, green intermediate upper division, advanced, qualified to be senpai. Okay, weebs in chat. I can already feel so many people are like, I could just feel it about to happen in Twitch. Black, expert, qualified to be sensei or teacher. Weebs. All right. Are these colored belts and ranks good for martial arts? There's a lot of debate about them. Please note that martial arts are truly considered to be arts in which knowledge and perfection of practice rather than mere superiority of force are core values. And 8th Dan in judo doesn't mean you're the most vicious fighter out there, since you're usually in your 60s when you get it. You are, while still formidable, probably not winning Olympic competitions, because that's not the point. These belts qualify you as a teacher, not a fighter only. Oh, okay, very cool. At that level, knowledge and dedication and service to the community are the guidelines of promotion. That seems very nice. Okay, now that we're back to our regular scheduled programming, pun intended, would colored belts, perhaps a pure abstraction, make sense in programming? The idea seems nutty. How could we possibly define a rank system for ourselves as software engineers? I don't know. I consider myself a 1.8-ish IQ, 1 IQ brown belt at my level of programming development, or my programmer development. At a typical pace, it takes 4 to 6 years to go from a 1.8 to a 2.0 Shodan. I'd like to do it in the next 2 or 3, but we'll see. Is there a scalable and universal applicable metric for programming expertise assessment? I don't know. Okay, first off, I love where this is going. The universal programming measurement. This is fantastic. This is just such a great idea. I actually really like this concept that an eighth Dan isn't about fierceness, but about kind of like the dedication and community service. There's something super cool about that. So I'm liking that. I'm liking it. Literally what leak code is for. Leak code is this level, right? Leak code, gatekeeping. No one's keeping gates, dog. You're using the term wrong. I'm going to gatekeep you from using the term gatekeeping because you used it so incorrect. Binary Hero, why is it gatekeeping? Bring it down right now. Step into the arena. I want you to put on that yellow belt that you have, and I want you to tell me why it's gatekeeping right now. Keep going. You're introducing classes. You don't think classes don't exist, senior engineer? Come on. I want something here. Give me something that's a reason why it's gatekeeping. Let him cook. Hey, you always let the man cook. I want to see it. I want to see it. It's gatekeeping because someone has to prove themselves. That's not gatekeeping. You don't even know what gatekeeping is. I'm going to ban chat. I swear to God. I swear I'm going to store pee in the balls if we don't move on here. Tell me, Binary, come on. I want to know. Binary Hero, come on. Let's see this. Give me the meat and give it to me raw. I'm a genius. But let's see. I'm a genius, but it's gatekeeping for me to prove it. Yes, gatekeeping is the process through which information is filtered or for dissemination, whether for publication, broadcasting, the internet, or some other form of communication. Yes, it's preventing somebody from progressing. It can make people. It can make people higher level people and ignore people with potential. No, first off, that literally already exists. It's called your years of experience. If you come at me and you say, I have 1 year of experience, I think you're not going to be as good as someone with 10 years of experience. That is not gatekeeping. That's just like observation of reality. So back to this whole gatekeeping thing. It's not, the thing about gatekeeping is gatekeeping prevents somebody from progressing forward. Is adding belts preventing someone from becoming a better programmer? Now, what you could say is that adding belts will misidentify people that are better and should be ranked higher, but don't simply allow for it. True and factual, right? That will happen every single time. It will also have somebody who's not qualified, who is a higher rank simply because of time, or potentially nepotism of some sort. But does that not already happen with standard ranks today? Does that not already happen with junior engineer, senior engineer? I worked in the field. My first job was at Schedulisty. I worked there for 6 or 5 months. Then I went to Workiva, or was Web Filings back then. I worked there for 1 year and 4 months. I was then hired at 1 year and 11 months as a senior software engineer at Netflix. Did I deserve that title? Let me retell my experience story, but do it slightly different. Before I got hired at Schedulisty, I did about 2 to 3 years doing my own startup where I worked about 80 to 100 hours a week. Does that change how you feel? There's probably a lot of you that said, well, probably not a senior engineer. Now that there's some of you that hear that, they go, well, maybe, yeah, that's maybe more senior engineering. I'm just saying ranks are impossible to be correct. So there's 2 major problems with this, just generally speaking. One, black belts have to, when it comes to, let's phrase it this way. When it comes to something like judo, typically we'll say the low-level black belts, the people who really raise up really high, the brown belts, whatever the belt coloring it is in judo /BJJ /karate /kung fu any of these martial arts, if you will. Typically, the people that are higher ranked, they're not teachers. They're just participants. They're there because they're there for the sake of being there. But programming, on the other hand, isn't that way. You're there for the sake of earning a living. So there's a fundamental difference. That means black belts are going to be fundamentally bad at the teaching category, right? Because they're just going to be thrust there, not because they're meant to be there, but because they simply are there, right? So it's definitely a very confusing thing. Anyways, so let's look at this. To recap, 0 to 3 scale that I developed for assessing programmers. Let me state that this is the most important points. Okay, so this is, my guess is that this won't work well, but let's find out. Level 1 represents additive contributions that produce some frontline business value, while level 2 contributions are multiplicative and infrastructural. Level 3 contributions are global multipliers or multiplicative over multipliers. Lisps, for example, are languages designed to gift the mere programmer with full access to multiplicative power. The Lisp languages are radically powerful to the point that corporate managers dread them. Is that why? Okay, so I mean, I've been following this guy up until this point. Closure mentioned. Was that closure mentioned just then? Did we just hit closure? All right, level 2 programmers love Lisps and languages like Haskell. However, level 3 programmers create them. Okay, so I am not a level 2 programmer, it turns out. Okay, point 0 represents 95% competency. The corporate standard for a manager doesn't need to worry. At level X, in other words, a 1.0 programmer will be able to complete 95% of additive tasks laid before him. This assumption is that reliability is a logistic S-curve, where a person's 5% competent on tasks 1.0 levels higher, 50% at a 0.5 above, and 95% at level. So a 1.8 engineer, like me, is going to be 85% competent at level 2 work. Okay, fair. I think that's actually a pretty fair way to do it. I don't know how you objectively measure this 1.8, especially when you come out the gates swinging with Lisp as like the thing. All right, meaning that I'd probably do a good job overall, but you'd want a light supervision, design review, stability analysis if you're betting a company on my work. 1.0 is a threshold for typical corporate employability, and 2.0 is what we call a 10x programmer. But the truth is that the actual difference in value creation is highly variable. 20x to 100x on greenfield development, 3 to 5x on accommodating corporate environments such as Google, and almost no gain in less accommodating one. I mean, this is a great observation, by the way, the one that your environment dictates how your environment can have a huge dictation into how successful you are. If you have a very bad environment, it's very, very hard to be a successful programmer and to make change. Very, very true. I wouldn't put Google as an accommodating corporate experience. Greenfield projects, you can definitely see the biggest difference in greenfield projects. 10x programmers, typically what I think of a 10x programmer is that I don't really think that 10x programmers largely exist. And the ones that do typically make 10x the amount of work, not 10x solving the problems. Just throwing that out there. Also, saying that 2.0 is 10x programming and then saying you're a 1.8, you're like, I'm not a 10x programmer, but I would like to let you know I'm getting pretty close, maybe an 8x programmer. I'm not sure. I don't know where I would land on the programmer scale, right? I think it just totally depends. Like just real talk. Hold on, let's look at this. I'm curious because Lithium has done some fang work. If you take an environment into account, imagine an early Meta or Google employee who built simple things but was there early on. They're going to have a huge network inside the company and a lot of tribal knowledge. Yeah, they're going to have a whole different level of power that simply comes with experience/time. And if you're like a gregarious individual, you could actually run decently fast, right? You can run really fast despite not being a great programmer. So it's a good take. That's a good take. But like here's a good example. You ask me to just fix up a bunch of the UI and make it prettier. Like I'm not going to be a 10x programmer. There's nothing about it that's going to make me 10x. You asked me to come up with tools and build they call them infrastructure level of engineers. It's not that I'm good at Terraform or I'm not a YAML engineer at all. I build tools and things like tools inside of companies. And so that, on the other hand, I can do very, very well. So it just depends on what you're asking me to do, right? So am I going to be a 10xer at all points? No. I just won't be. I won't even have like the emotional energy to really go deep in on the UI. I could refactor the crap out of a UI. Like one of the projects I had at Netflix was rebuilding part of the UI, and I rebuilt on the website a lot of the code for Billboard. And I could do it all because it's just refactoring and building at that point. It's more of an infrastructure position than it is a UI position. But nonetheless, it was, it's just not my love. It's like you'll never do something as good if you aren't working in the place you want to be working at. Auto-playing video. It also allowed for auto-playing video. Yep. Asked me to build a SaaS, and I could be I could be staff/principal engineer. Asked me to write embedded C software. I'm a junior. Yeah, precisely. Exactly. You get the idea. That's this huge problem. But here's the deal, though. I will say, okay, there's two problems there. One, you're absolutely right you going from building a SaaS product to building an embedded C application, you would be a junior. But your rate of change from junior to mid to senior would be fast. And that's kind of what makes a really good engineer is rate of change, adaptability, speed, right? That's a huge potential, because the reality is that most of what you do day to day should hopefully not be repetitive. It should instead be something that something that you've never really done before, or things that you are 50% familiar with. And then you can really take off, because you're taking your previous knowledge, applying it to new areas, and growing quickly. And I think that's just like such an important concept. Programming, like martial art or the board game Go, both being uncommonly introspective on the measurement of skill and progress, is a field in which there's a vast spectrum of skill. 2.0 is clear candidate for a Shodan, a first Dan. But what does Shodan mean? It means you are excellent and a beginner. You're a beginner at being excellent. That's a great phrase. That is a great phrase. You are a beginner at being excellent. I liked it. I liked it a lot. You are now also typically a teacher, but that doesn't mean you stop learning. Again, one problem about typically in our field is that teaching is incentivized. You get paid for it. And so by getting paid for it is interesting, right? And so it causes all sorts of goofiness, right? Curious. Very, very curious on this one. All right, hold on. Jack Harrington said this one. Here, I can go like this. Here, Jack's a great guy. Let's see. Do we go here? Right? How do I get this link, by the way? I bet I have to go to youtube.com, the Prime Timeagen, go here. Grab this one. Here, I want to do this for Jack. Give me a second here. There we go. Oh, don't save that. Share that one. Where's the at timestamp? Wait, isn't there usually like an at timestamp? Isn't there usually an at timestamp? What the heck? Oh, is it because it's live? You can't do, oh man. Okay, hold on. Let's see, what is that? That's 203 to that. So about 24 minutes in. Okay, so about 24 minutes in. That's kind of annoying. I'm not gonna lie to you, that's kind of annoying. About 23 minutes in, I start reading the compiler docs. The compiler intro docs, and then we watch your video. There we go. All right, there you go. Can you put a timestamp in the URL? Well, maybe it's live though. So the problem is here, watch this. T equals 1,000. T equals 1,000. It just erased it. Live videos, they don't have the same. Yeah, live videos don't have the same thing. You know what I mean? It was eaten. It was gobbled. It defaults to live, I guess. Yeah, it's live, so it doesn't quite work. You can make a clip of it, I think. Yeah. Someone tell Ludwig to tell YouTube to fix it. Yeah. Can someone tell Otto? Tell Otto. Prime, are you excited for the React compiler? I think there's a lot of cool things about it. I'm on the doubt phase. Okay, we're not going to do that. Come on. I'm on the doubt phase, but I'm also very curious phase. Right, so I don't want to say one way or the other. Okay, so let's get back to this one. Flip, sorry about like the craziness of this one. You're now also typically a teacher. That doesn't mean you stop learning. So again, one of the problems I have with just general computer science and this is that you are incentivized to be a teacher, especially in modern world. It pays to be a teacher. So a lot of people race to be a teacher. You can see it also a lot with just like online learning, learn in public, do all this. Make sure you go and tell everybody that about your new thing. You should try to teach. You should try to teach. You should teach. You should teach. Like you see it all over the place. It's almost no different than you see people saying without saying it. You should contribute to open source. Contribute to open source. And then we had all those junk PRs and all that. We also have just a bunch of junk teaching. And it's because you can't. There's not like an understanding. There's this idea that everybody is valuable to teach, which isn't wrong. It just also means that you typically go into something maybe a little too quickly. Like maybe you don't need to be a teacher right away. And that's okay. Like, I didn't start trying to do any form of teaching until I was about 12, 15 years into my career. Some people have significantly less value to teach. I don't know if that's true. Every person has some sort of experience that somebody else can learn from. But I think that the problem is there's actually so many problems. Some people have so much to teach and they're incapable of teaching. Some people have so little to teach, but they're so good at it. That's a real dichotomy. Is this an educational channel? No. In fact, while you can't formally admit this too often, lest they get cocky, you often learn as much from your students as they do from you. Multiplicative level 2 programming contributions are fundamentally about teaching. I don't know if this is true. All my formal things, I've learned little bits of knowledge, but I've never said it doesn't feel one-to-one, you know? This is a channel to forget about FOMO. Yeah, you're not missing out. Multiplicative level 2 programming contributions are fundamentally about teaching. When you build a Lisp macro or a DSL that teaches people how to think properly about and therefore solve a problem, you are a teacher. If you don't see it this way, you just don't get the point of programming. The point of programming is not to teach, though. To be completely fair, the point of programming is not to teach. For many people, it is the act of creation. For another group of people, the most fundamental, it is a way to get paid and survive well in this society. Some people continue to program even after they retire because it is a point of creation. Some people enjoy the act of teaching. The act of teaching, I think that's where this fundamental top statement probably dictates a lot of this article, which says that nothing under the sun is greater than education. I just fundamentally disagree with that statement. Therefore, it's not surprising that this article is kind of like headed in that direction, that teaching is the pinnacle. I'm not sure if it's the pinnacle, right? It's about instructing computers while teaching humans how the systems worked. In fact, I think there's a rough correlation between 0 to 3.0 programmer competence scale and appropriately Dan Caillou ranks, like so. The 8th Caillou, just getting started. Still needs help on minor compilation errors, can't do much without supervision. 7th Caillou, understands the fundamental ideas behind programming, but still takes a lot of time to implement them. 6th Caillou, reaching professional grade competence, but only viable in very junior roles with supervision, typically for an average CS student graduate. Okay. 5th Caillou, genuine white belt, starting to understand engineering rather than programming alone, knows about production scalability, maintenance, and code quality concerns, can write 500-line programs without supervision. So I think this is another one of these. This is where I fracture from. I mean, I like the idea. I always love these thought experiments of attempting to make this a thing because it's kind of interesting. But I'm gonna invert this one. I'm gonna Uno reverse this one. I don't think that if your program's less than 1,000 lines of code, I don't really care to code review it. Real talk, go for it. Build whatever the hell you want. Reason being is that to rewrite it if you needed to would be like a day, 2 days. So like, why take the time to like try to make really great code quality on something that's 1,000 lines of code, 500 lines of code? Yeah. So it's just like, don't worry about that. So, I go for it. Run with it. I don't care. 500 lines of code on the front end is like 2 buttons and a div. I would agree with that. 1.2 to 1.3, the 4th Caillou, someone said I keep saying yeehaw. I'm not even close to saying yeehaw. I'm saying Caillou. I'm not even sure if that's correct. Solidly good at additive programming tasks and can learn whatever is needed to do most jobs. This is a great place to be. I like this. A yellow belt, okay, this is good, but not showing yet leadership or design sense. Capable but rarely efficient without superior leadership. Okay, I'm curious about this. I mean, I guess design sense is just, maybe that's just time in the saddle is what he's trying to say. The hard part is a lot of this is time in the saddle. When I say time in the saddle, I don't mean literal like passage of time, like 6 years. I couldn't give you a year. It's about how many times have you failed. Just say the 4th Q. Okay, Q, is that what you say? Q? All right, the 3rd Q, developing a mature understanding of computer science, aesthetics, programming, and engineering concerns, and the trade-offs involved in each. May or may not have come into functional programming, whose superiority depends on the domain. It is not in high-performance domains, yet practical. Okay, so this is wild that it is funny that So I'll say that there's a fundamental oopsie daisy here, which is the strong correlation that functional programming is the only way to progress further, right? So I'd say that probably from here on out, I would say that this is where this article really loses it. The second Q shows consistent technical leadership, given light supervision and permission to fail, can make multiplier-level contributions of high quality. This is a great definition, an asset to pretty much any engineering organization for those that inhibit excellence. So if this is the case, then I would put this person as this would be like a staff-level engineer to me. This is what I, like, given this definition, this is what I would consider staff-level plus, right? It kind of happens with a 10-year-old article. This is about like programming. Has programming fundamentally changed in the last 10 years, right? Has it changed? Yes, you think programming has changed fundamentally in the last 10 years. What has changed? We got React. Yeah, React is about 10 years old. Dogs, it's the same shit. If you think that programming has changed, no, they haven't changed. Excuse me, async await is from 2005. Even if async await didn't exist, that's just syntax sugar. That just is something that makes it easier. It didn't change programming. The only big change in programming is ChatGPT. Hey, by the way, thank you, whoever just gave a sub to Trump's butt plug. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm sure the butt plug appreciates it. An asset to pretty much any engineering organization except those that inhibit excellence. Corporate rank cultures that enforces subordinacy and disempowers engineers by design. Yeah, that would be bad. Right, which is very interesting. This is actually such a great observation. I personally think the places that you're going to find the best engineers are cultures in which allow for the most amount of failure. First Q, eminently capable, spends most of his time on multiplier type contributions and performs them well. Can be given a role equivalent of VP/engineering in impact and will do it well. Okay. The first Anne, she is consistently building high-quality assets and teaching others how to use them. These transformative software engineers who don't only make other engineers more productive, simply multipliarism, but actually make them better. Hire one, give her autonomy, and she will 10x your whole company. Can be a CTO equivalent role. Maybe. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting thing that I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I think one thing that we always look at is for people to have impact, quote unquote impact. Do you have to always have impact to attain rank? Right? To me, sometimes you could find people that have almost no impact in some sense, but just consistently produce great things no matter what the task is. They're the fixer, right? You can also fail up. Yeah, I mean, this is the whole problem about any rank system, right? Any rank system will have its anomalies. And sometimes the anomaly is the normality, and then it becomes a whole problem. You know what I mean? Let's see. Higher Dan ranks. Having not attained them, I can't accurately describe them. I would estimate Rich Hickey as being at least 2.6 for closure. Lisp mentioned. I love the obsession with functional programming as like this hallmark. This is really great. As he built one of the best language communities out there, creating a beautiful language on top of an ugly but important / powerful ecosystem, Java, and for the shockingly high code quality of the product. If you look into the guts of Clojure, you will forget to hate Java. That's how good the code is. However, I'm too far away from these levels as of now to have a clear vision of how to define them or what they look like. Let's see. Is formal recognition of a programmer achievements through formalization ranks and belt colors necessary? Is it a good idea? Should we build up infrastructure that genuinely assesses whether someone is a green belt engineer and direct that person toward purple, brown, and black? I used to think that this was a bad idea. Well, I mean, did anybody catch what was happening in here? We already have that. Notice that this one said CTO. Notice that this one said VP of engineering. Notice that this one gave bounds, right? Like it's already there. We already do this. We don't use colored belts, but we already do it, right? Belts are cooler, fair. Belts are cooler, fair and factual. You know, and of course, this is also an idealism approach, right? This assumes that CTOs are great. Not all CTOs are great. Not all CTOs are great. They'll never be great. There's no standardization between companies. Exactly. And the thing is, you can't create a standardization, right? Am I blue or green? I like to think that I'm a nice, good old-fashioned white belt. So I'm cynical about anything that might be used to create distributed social status because the idea just disgusts me on the visceral level. Ranking programmers, which is inherently subjective no matter how good we are at the assessment, seems wrong to me. I have a natural aversion to the concept. I mean, this is one thing that's really good about, say, like the more art form martial arts, Taekwondo, right? Taekwondo, it's just like have you spent this many years practicing, and do you know these forms? Like it's a very kind of objective measurement. And so it makes sense. You can do that. But with programming, it's just like, what are you supposed to do? All right, it's time for your brown belt activity. All right, we're going to need to see you first bust out a quick sort and a bubble sort. We're also going to need to see a binary search both on a tree and an array. And then I would love to see you create a generalized tree that represents a DOM-like structure. And then we're going to finish it off with a little bit of heap and a DFS on a graph, okay? That's what I kind of want to see for our warm-up, okay? And then after that, I would like to see you build an API that can handle 10,000 concurrent connections or requests. And then after that, right, like it just like there's no what's a barrier, right? And then you got this embedded engineer that all he does is works in C, and he's just like what are all these APIs you keep talking about? Dog, I make LEDs flicker. Buddy. You know what I mean? You just raw dog them binary. Falcor, shut up. I just don't want to do the work. I'd rather learn to program at a 2.0 plus level and then go off and do it and then spend years trying to figure out how to assess individuals in a scalable and fair way. Yeah, there might be a machine learning problem in there that I could enjoy, but ultimately the hero who solves the problem is going to be focused mostly on people stuff. Yes, I am starting to think that there is no other alternative than to create organization-independent ranking system for software engineers. Why? If we don't rank ourselves in a smart way, then business assholes will step in and rank us anyways, and they'll do a far shittier job of it. And we know this to be true. We cannot deny it. We see it in corporate jobs on a daily basis. Okay, you know what? That ending is really, really good. Okay, that's a good ending. You know, that's a very good motivation for why you should probably consider. You should consider a universal way. It's going to happen anyways. It's just going to be a piece of shit version instead. A typical businessman can't tell the difference between a 2.0 engineer and a 1.2 who's great at selling his ideas. We tend to be angry at managers. You know what? I'm going to make an inverse argument. I don't think a 2.0 engineer can tell the difference between a 1.2 who's great at selling his ideas versus a 2.0. I don't think you can either. Yeah, with time, after 2 years you could, because you've been sold the bill of goods and then you realize the bill of goods weren't good, right? Like that's the problem. Let's see. We tend to be angry at managers over this fact and over the matter of what is supposed to be meritocracy, the software industry. By the way, one of the greatest insults I've ever had in my lifetime was over this word meritocracy. Because this was like in 2016 at NodeConf EU, and I was just like, yeah, that's one of the great parts about software engineering is that it's a meritocracy. And one of the NPM.js maintainers looked at me and was like, ugh. You clearly don't understand psychology or sociology. 2 branches. Not 1, 2 branches. Not 1, 2. NPM maintainer checks out. Yeah. That was the day I realized that he's right. He was right. It's not a meritocracy because that man is an asshole and look at him go. It turns out you can be an asshole and you're still winning. All right, let's see, hold on. Okay. Over the fact that it's supposed to be a meritocracy, being one of the most politicized profession environments on earth. But when we denigrate them for the inability to understand what we do, we're the ones being an asshole. Wow, okay. They police and measure us because we can't police and measure ourselves. I think it's because it's impossible. Again, I hate to break this to you. It's impossible. So this may be the problem that we just need to solve. How does one get a black belt in programming? Most professional accreditations are based on churning out commodity professionals. We can't take that approach because under the best condition, it takes a decade to become a black belt /2.0. And some people don't even have the talent. This is a very hard problem. And it's going to be, I'm going to punt it for now. I would argue to become a black belt in so-called programming, I don't think you can do it in 10 years. And what I mean by that is that there's just a certain level of experience because you may be able to identify a problem and be able to solve something, and it's great. And people can think you better than that. But that doesn't mean that you consistently keep doing it, right? There's few people that can consistently keep identifying the real root cause problems and keep building to create stuff. Is Uncle Bob a black belt? Yeah, I think he's a black belt. It doesn't mean that. The thing is, you got to remember that just because I disagree with some of his ideas doesn't mean he's right and I'm wrong, or inversely, he's wrong and I'm right. You can build software both ways. I just don't like it. I tend to be on the more quote unquote artistic side of things, which is like I want to be able to love what I do. And builder abstract fattery patterns and all the nonsense that goes with it just doesn't make me want to keep going. I don't like it. I don't like that approach. I think it's just largely wasteful to me. I don't like to have to think in these tiny little bits. I like to just build the thing. And I like to, every now and then, I like to abstract when abstraction makes sense. Like for the first time ever, so I've been doing Go now long enough that I've actually been able to do my first levels of abstraction. And honestly, it's been such a great joy to do it. I have not had this much fun in a long time. And I've never been able to do this. And I have this whole byte utils over here where I have these ideas of writers. And I'm going to be able to take this idea of a writer and I'm going to be able to take my virtual box, which is going to be these quad trees over data sets. And I'm going to be able to take a virtual box and turn it into an iterator that iterates over these boxes. And it's just going to work out. And it just makes me like pretty dang happy about that I was able to kind of look at this. And that way we can write 1 or 2 byte 1 byte, 2 byte iterators over boxes, which is like I personally think a pretty dang cool thing. Anyways, just a thought, just something I've noticed. Anyways, I don't think we need to keep on going with this article. It's pretty dang long, but we get the fundamental idea, right? I'm sure there's some good stuff over here that we're missing out on, but the general idea was pretty great. I just don't want to, dude. I ain't reading all that. Congratulations, or I'm sorry. We don't need to peer into why corporate programming sucks so much. Honestly, you guys have enough scars out there to know that you know why. Okay, you know why it sucks. All right. Anyways, the name is I like the idea of ranks. We do it anyways. We're going to always do it. It'd be great if you could come up with a universal standard that actually makes some sort of sense. But I would argue that it does not exist because you cannot rank any one programmer as into one rank or another, because every single type of programmer silo is just vastly different from another person. Take somebody who's really good at thinking about UIs. They're just simply going to be different than the person that's really good at, say, building LSPs. They're just going to be different. They're going to think about problems different. They're going to be able to, they're going to structure their code vastly different. If you're always building UIs, you probably are building code more often that is going to be integrated tested versus like unit tested, because UIs are typically much harder to unit test. You can unit test some faction of it, but not all of it. Whereas the inverse is probably true for people that are building more infrastructure style tools, is that you tend to unit test the more like bare bones smaller part. It's a little bit more difficult to integrate to test the rest of it. And often you don't even have the time to do that. And so it's like this whole difference that's going on here. And I just don't think we can have one universal ranking system. It just does not work that way. Jen!